gonna mute you guys just. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. We are here. We are back with another episode, dope episode with our Love and Restoration series. Inshallah, it will take a minute for it to come over on social media, but I asked my guests that are here, as well as my co-hosts, once you see it, go ahead and do me the honor of sharing it to your personal pages, inshallah. But as the audience members come in, please go ahead and give your salams so we can greet you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum, Vincent. Thank you for gracing us with your salams first and foremost. Welcome back to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. And I'm super excited because we have reached the end of Love and Restoration. And we've saved one of the best for last, subhanAllah. Sorry, I apologize. We have saved one of the best podcast episodes, and it is Love's Triumph, mashallah. And I am joined here, wa alaikum salam, Zahra, and I am joined here. I'm so happy and humbled to be welcomed back with my lovely, lovely co-hosts. I would like to officially say salams to Yasmin and Ziada. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay. And as you guys know, the lovely, lovely Ziada, she's back here. She's been here all throughout Love and Restoration, as well as all throughout our podcast. And we know that she is an entrepreneur. She is a hair expert. She owns Hair by Ziada. She is an author of More Tresses, Less Stresses. Did I say that right? More Tresses, Less Stresses? Did I say that right, Ziada?
More tresses, less stress.
Less stress, yes. Amongst so many other dope things that she does. Welcome back, Ziada. Thank you for being here for this culminating episode.
Thank you for having me. It's always my honor to join the panel on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. I'm grateful to be here.
Alhamdulillah. And I'm also joined by my special friend. She's also graced us here so many times, and we absolutely love and are obsessed with her perspective. Yasmin Hamid is the owner of Spirit Foods, and she also does so many dope things in Atlanta, along with having her own podcast with her son. And we just are so happy to have you back. Assalamu alaikum, Yasmin. Welcome back to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam, and thank you again for having me. It's always an honor.
MashaAllah. And I am humbled. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hi, how you guys doing? I'm so humbled. I'm going to introduce our phenomenal guests here with us tonight. This couple, mashallah, we were just sharing with them, and I'm so happy. I know you guys are going to absolutely fall in love with them. They've been together for 8 years. They are the parents of 2 children. They live out there in Texas. They are ABS advisors, and they offer financial literacy to others. And they're also into home banking as licensed agents, among so many other things. They also are dog breeders, which is interesting, and traders. I would like to officially welcome Brother Elijah and his wife, Fatima, to the show. Assalamu alaikum, you guys.
Wa alaikum salam.
How you guys doing tonight?
Alhamdulillah, we're doing well. Just excited to be here, and really grateful for the opportunity to share. And I really hope that our story helps somebody else be able to open up and not be afraid to be able to help others heal while healing themselves.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys for being here. And Brother Elijah and Sister Fatima, I love how you guys are set up where Fatima's kind of like in the front and Brother Elijah, you kind of lean back. But Brother Elijah, would you mind coming up just a little bit so you can equally share space? I love what it represents, but I would like to see both of you guys just like a khairan. Thank you. We're going to get right into this discussion. SubhanAllah, like Love's Triumph, this particular podcast episode, it was birthed between Fatima and I, actually. We had a lot of dialogue about this sort of topic, and I was sort of intrigued by you guys' story and so much of what you've been through and how you guys are still enduring. And not only that, you guys are thriving business owners and building at this phase. So it's really inspirational. But life never hands you things that you can't handle, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He doesn't place a burden on us bigger than we can bear, right? I wanted to just start out at the beginning first and foremost. How did you guys meet? Let's first start there. How did you guys meet? What's the story?
Well, from my perspective, so I was still in high school. I was high school junior, yeah, senior. And I was walking home from school, and it was snowing outside, and this was when we lived in Colorado. And he caught my attention by yelling at me, saying, "Hey!" And I was like, "What is that? Who is that?" And
I was actually going to go drop off some dope, and so we were actually I was sitting there outside in Montbello, which is my gang's territory that I'm from back home in Colorado. And so as I was having one of my people go inside and make a run, I seen her walking down the street, and that's when I said, "Hey."
Okay, so you pulled the old school approach of just, "Hey, what's up?" And that worked for you. Okay, subhanallah. And thank you for your transparency in regarding just where you guys were in that space and what you were sort of going through, Brother Elijah. We're going to get into that in a minute. Yasmin, I'm going to allow you to kind of segue into the next point.
So there's been a lot of conversations about trust during this series, and it usually plays a huge factor in our ability to adequately connect with each other. How did you all establish trust in your relationship?
ooh. I'm sorry, can you ask the question again? It kind of glitched a little bit.
How did you all establish trust in your relationship?
Yeah.
For me, it was I've always been the kind of person that I don't try to force anybody to be who they aren't. One of the ways I always thought you can always trust everybody, and what that meant was that what's already inside of a person will come out of them, and you don't have to be in anybody's phone or any of that. The truth of a person will come to light. And so as well, when we first got together, because of the things I did have going on, I didn't reveal a lot of the things that I was a part of either. So being that I was out doing what I was doing and running around, because I never looked like the type of person to do the things that I was doing. And so what I would call was false face. I looked really, really good on the outside, but there was a whole lot of garbage going on the back end. And so
and just to be clear, Brother Elijah, so we don't beat around the bush, during that time you were involved in the street, so you were engaged in some sort of drug dealing and gang banging, to put it briefly.
Yeah, well, I was heavily involved in the street. Like for me, like I'm 1 for 1 on Google. Like if you look me up, I've been arrested for murders, and I've been to the feds. I was number 21 on the most wanted list. I done been out there. So, and then also too, just I'm an MMA fighter too, so I was all the way rough. I even just had a cage fight last year in Dallas. That was publicized. So I was just, in general, I've just always been really, really rough. But those were the things that we had going on. And so for trust-wise, I was like, I'm not the best. So, I'm going to trust you to be as good as you can be, and then we'll just try to work it out from there. And then what that ended up segueing to as we got older was realizing like, hey, this ain't gonna work. And so we have to start establishing some kind of protocols and, being more open with each other and figuring things out. And then so what that turned into was really taking our relationship back into more of a friendship phase and relearning each other. And really trying to be as honest about everything that we had ever done to one another as possible. And every secret that we had kept from one another, so that way we could actually know who we were dealing with. Because I realized neither one of us was being fair to one another, and that we had to bring full transparency.
Wow, powerful. Ziada, powerful, powerful, powerful.
Can you explain how incarceration played a role in your relationship? How did you establish trust? And what were some critical ingredients?
Okay, well, yeah, it can be for me. So how the incarceration played a part for me was right 2 weeks after we had our first son, Noah. Elijah, he had gotten arrested, and so I had went through kind of a phase of being hurt and like, okay, well now I have to take care of this kid by myself, and I already wasn't in a good place with living with my mom. Because at one point I had to, I was actually staying in the apartment we had together before I had Noah, but afterward I had to live with my mom because she was going to be closer to be able to help me with Noah while Elijah was gone, because he was in a halfway house at the time too. And so when it came to the trust factor, being that I didn't have him and we didn't really, like before we had gotten pregnant, we hadn't really known each other long. It was only like a few months that we were dating. And so once he was gone and the issues that I did have with my mom, there was no trust there with my mom. Like, yeah, you know, love and all that stuff. But I was seeking male attention from the hurt and pain that I had. And so I never really was able to build relationships to be able to be like, okay, I trust you, you, and you. I had aunts that I trusted, but I never really like built relationships to be able to really have that trust factor in there. And so once he got home, like you said, you know, having to go into learning each other again and going back into that friendship stage, it was like, okay, well, what are one of the things that we could do to help build our trust back, which was that telling each other the secret, like, and being that he's like literally the only person that I've ever really like told everything to, I was still holding stuff back because of the hurt that I had went through and the insecurities while he was gone.
You know, that's really powerful. I wanted to just make sure that I understand and can acknowledge, first and foremost, you know, when you're meeting someone that is, and just to be frank, you know, involved in a life that doesn't necessarily breed honesty. Would that be fair, Elijah? Would that be a fair statement? That the life you were in? Okay. And so when you align, you know, with this woman, this dope woman that I'm sure at some point you wanted to spend the rest of your life with, you know, did you intentionally make a choice to be dishonest with her, to lie to her, to sort of kind of reel her in? Was there deception and even in that process, or just wondering?
For me, it wasn't necessarily like a real in thing, because it was everything I said that I did mention was true. I did have a business. I did, you know, have my own things going on. It's just the real money came from the stuff on the back end. And so I would mention the things that I was doing on the front end, and because all those things were actually there and present, it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I didn't have to bring in. And so what changed thing is when she became pregnant with Noah, one of the things I had never wanted to do was do what was done to me by my father. My father went to the feds when I was 7. And so I was like, hey, this is what I have going on, and I'm in real deep, you know. And then when I started bringing out the other things that were going on.
And for you, Fatima, at that point, did you feel really deceived and lied to? Because you were already about to have a baby with somebody that you weren't too clear about.
Yeah, I mean, I felt deceived, but I was also hurt because I wasn't sure, like hurt and afraid because I didn't want to. Okay, so like, what if somebody, what if the feds just busted in here right now and took you away? So then now, but I mean, it still ended up happening, but it's just that feeling of being deceived and then also being afraid of what could happen.
Powerful. And Liz, I wanted to just really quick touch base, if that's okay, Elijah and Fatima, with Yasmin and Ziada, because I know, as Black women and as us that were raised, I mean, Ziada, we had this conversation just before. I mean, you grew up in Baltimore. I was raised in New Jersey, but I still am from Philadelphia. Yasmin, Oakland, right? Oakland. So inner cities. And just the impact of sort of the street life, the prison industrial system on our families, on our Black men. So I wanted to just touch base with you guys and see, first starting with you, Ziada, how do you feel in regards to just hearing of this sort of experience and then just relating it to just experiences that we know up close and personal in our own families and the men in our lives when it comes to just the street life and just the impact that it has on us as Black women?
Personally, my brother has been in and out of jail for years. And I think that it definitely plays a huge role in the family. We came from the typical 2-parent home, and it was one of those things that my mother always would tell my brother, that he was aligning himself with boys whose oftentimes their household didn't reflect how our household was being ran. And, that she wanted him to be a leader and not a follower, right? But my brother was also searching for something more, right? And that's a lot of times what you find. And when you go into the street, like the brother spoke about, his father left him at such a very young age, right? Where he really needed a male role model. And so many young Black males that join gangs and get into the street life is because it's a family for them. It's a family. It's a sense of protection. In the inner city, and sometimes my son has had to deal with this, that is lions in the inner city, and they are trying, and wolves in the pack that are trying to get you, right? And they're trying to see if you're weak and whether or not you're strong enough to endure the test that they come at you. And if the pull is really strong in the inner city, the kid could have such a good nature and they see that as weakness and they'll prey on it, and so oftentimes they are the ones that are initiated into the gang life, right? And again, you're thinking that this is your family, and it's one of the hardest things to ever get out of, getting into the street. My brother just got out of jail, and one of the things that he said was like, he kept trying to get a job. And sometimes he would get the job, but it wasn't paying what you're used to in the street. You get used to that fast money, and it's really hard to come back out of it. And it has taken a toll on our family. I'm not as close as I would like to be with my brother, because there's so many elements that come with that, and I had to make sure that didn't impact me in my path, and now I have a son, and I mean, his father's not his father's never been in the street, and I just didn't want him to see that side, even though my brother has very honest conversations with him now about making sure that he never sees that as something that's enticing, because as anyone knows, Baltimore City is no joke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to jump over to you, Elijah, in a second, but I'm just going to get a quick input from Yasmin. Just experiences. Sister Khalida, she shared, it's also hard for us as sisters when a brother has a criminal record. It's hard to discern, is his brother a criminal or just unfortunate? And I guess even, our mindset around it, which Elijah, I'm going to have you speak to that in a minute. But Yasmin, just our experience as Black women,
Yeah, so my experience is interesting. I share a lot of the same things as Yada mentioned. I've been the wife of a man that was in prison, several times, in and out. And I also have siblings that have been in and out of prison as well. So I feel that those experiences actually taught me to love Black men in a different way that had experienced those things. Because some of them ended up there without doing anything wrong. They were wrongly, chosen to be in prison. And so they had to learn how to keep their minds clear and keep themselves safe in certain ways to get out, you know what I mean? And it taught me how to love in a different way because I hadn't been prepared to love a person who had to be in that type of situation. So I would say that was one of the most important things for me is it taught me to love a Black man in a different way, and also to pay attention to those young men who may, find that as a situation that they're facing and help them to prevent it, before they end up there, or help them to be armed if they do end up in that type of situation so they don't end up just falling totally apart. Mm-hmm. That was my experience.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And for Brother Elijah, I just wanted to come back to you because you're the one with the experience. And when Sister Kalita just mentioned that for women, it's sometimes hard to decide if the brother is a criminal or just unfortunate. I just wanted to know, what did you think about that? What do you think about even that sort of perspective that us as sisters sort of have when we hear a brother has been in prison?
So this is deep, and it goes into the sense that there is a social engineering that is taking place here in America. And we understand that there are pressures that are being put on Black men, and to be a Black man is the most dangerous thing to be in America, because there has been this position even in the media now to where they want to take away our masculinity. There's movements where it's like, I can function and be just fine without a man. And then it takes away the fact that it's scientifically proven just from the vocals of a man while a child is in the womb that those help with brain development. And so understanding that even this whole slave engine from before was built off of the backs of Black men. And so there's been a breaking that has consistently happened, right? And so everybody in the conditions of what we call here in America, who is of our same hue, are unfortunate. The thing is, though, is that there does need to be discernment and understanding. Is the brother have potential to be able to dig himself out of this situation, or is this one of the brothers who just become a predator himself? Because a lot of people play predatory roles in different ways. And so for me, and where I come from, even as a part of that world, there's a lot of people I didn't hang with because I've still been a person who believes in honor and understanding, even though the warped sense of honor that I needed help correcting. I didn't believe in hurting your own. I didn't believe in victimizing people that weren't a part of anything. I didn't believe in beating on women or anything like that. And so you would see a certain character of men that would be different. And so a lot of times there is a hard time in our culture where women of our culture, it seems, have a hard time differentiating between men and boys. And so speaking from my own personal perspective, I never got into the life because I thought it was a cool to do. When I was going to the public miseducation and having teachers try to tell me how I should behave, but I can visibly see that they're miserable, and then having my mother tell me what I need to do to be successful, but she's not doing the same thing, I know there's a disconnect somewhere. And then growing up as well, like I'm bilingual, yo entiendo español, yo aprendí español en la escuela de idioma in Colorado. And so I grew up with that. I grew up with friends that were Jewish in the synagogues and things like that. And I would see how as a unit, they moved so much different than ours. But I noticed that whenever I was around these people, they would be like, well, what's that nigger doing here? And so these are other constructs that take place and play on the man. And so it's like, well, how do I know? And I know for a fact there's a barrier here. And, you know, they say don't pull the black card, but the truth of the matter is the hue of my skin really does matter. And so I just did what I did in the best way I understood in order to reach something, because that's not where I wanted to stay. And so without making this too long-winded is when you talk to a person, ask why they're doing what they're doing. Just like with the business, it's the why.
Yeah.
And the why says a lot. And so my why is what helped me do what I'm doing now and helped me get out of the streets and helped me even take several of my friends out of the streets, because I was never there because I thought it was cool. I was trying to find a way out, where other people are there because they're weak, broken, think it's cool, whatever those other misconceptions are.
Powerful. I really appreciate you speaking to that, brother. That's okay. I'm just going to mute everyone for a quick second. But I wanted to just, take a moment, if that's okay, before we segue into just sort of some of the other challenges and just triumph. This is so important. But Fatima, I know you spoke to some of the trauma and some of the pain, but a lot of times there's so much judgment that is sometimes delivered and offered to women that decide to, stand by their men in prisons or those that decide to endure. How did you navigate the judgment and the pain all together when your husband was away?
So pretty much how, I didn't really handle it. I had gotten to a state where once he was gone and I had went through issue with my mom where she literally pretty much told me to move out of the house. And so I have this newborn baby. I didn't have anywhere to go. And so I ended up moving into, it was pretty much a group home. I didn't know it was a group home until after the fact, but it was a group home for single moms. And that didn't really last long. It lasted a few weeks because someone had went into my room and stole some of my son's clothes. And so I'm like, well, if they're willing to go in there while he's sleeping to take some clothes, there's no telling what else they'll be willing to do. So my best friend ended up letting me go stay with her.
Okay.
And so I was staying with her for a few months, and her mom had got tired of me staying there. But mind you, I was still in the, okay, let me try to do what I can, get me a job and, do my best to take care of my son and do. So
you were on survival mode. Mm-hmm.
And so then I moved to Oklahoma because her mom, I didn't have anywhere to stay. So I went back to live with my mom because she moved to Oklahoma. And once I got to Oklahoma, I was like, okay, well, what I'm trying is not working. I did, start working. I had got my own apartment, but it was, things were hard. And so I had called up a guy that I had knew in high school, and that's pretty much handled that situation in fidelity, and ended up getting pregnant with my second son, and now we're here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your honesty. Don't be gentle with yourself. I appreciate your honesty. And that's a very real experience. I mean, you're in survival mode, and trying to figure it out. I know that was super, super hard. Elijah, what did you go through when you heard about it?
Cried.
You cried?
Yeah,
did
I?
Yeah.
It was rough, especially during the time when I found out she was pregnant. We actually had a riot on the yard, and we were having a race war, and so I was already trying everything I could just to survive and try to make it home and everything like that. And then hearing that, it was like a lot of things crashing down at the same time. And I was mad at her, but I also understood too because, I put myself in a position to be away. And so I couldn't call the kettle black. And even though, for me growing up, how I grew up, watching my mom go through what she went through in a very abusive household and everything like that. My mom was beat so we couldn't recognize her. And I can understand, how women can feel trauma and go through what they go through. And I ended up traumatizing her by going away. So I was like, I can't really be too mad or be unrealistic and not try to forgive and work this out if there's a way to.
SubhanAllah, beautiful. All right, I'm going to jump on over to you, Ziada. Yeah, a lot was shared, huh?
Yeah, a lot was shared. I mean, first and foremost, I honor you all for just being so transparent, about what you all have experienced and just showing mercy toward one another, and understanding that, people make mistakes. And like you said, that you went away and she had to find a way to be able to take care of a child and things of that nature, so I honor that for sure. The next question that we have is, what are some ways couples can manage challenges in their relationship? How do we establish boundaries? And how do you identify deal breakers?
And that's a lot. So we can start with managing the challenges in the relationship.
So on this one, I had took more charge on this one and helping each other figure this out because I had went through a cognitive development program, and then I was reading as many books on psychology as I could to figure out how to fix what was going on in here. And then I had got back into the deen really hard because I had strayed away from Islam, obviously. And so I had to really get back heavy and figure out how do we get through this. And so I had set up times like, hey, okay, let's journal, let's share, because at the time she wasn't Muslim yet. And I said, I think this is probably one of the things that was causing an issue as well, because I strayed away from Islam and was doing all the haram acts that I was doing, and I wasn't acting in the way I should, and having Islam at the forefront of our relationship anyway, being that she's half my deen. So I said, let me do my best to introduce her to the deen as well. And so, we would read the Quran, and we had to really set healthy structures. And so also changing the way we spoke. We wouldn't be like, hey, and she said exactly right, emotional intelligence. We wouldn't be like, hey, I feel like you're doing this, this, and this, because that feeling isn't helping with your rational thinking. And being irrational is what caused us to err in a lot of the ways that we did in the first place. So, really, going over those guides. And then I had read this book. I read several books, but one of the best ones that I had read was the 5 Love Languages. And it had dawned on me, because I've always been an avid reader. Even when I was, doing what I was doing, I never stopped reading, and it would trip people out. But I thought about how I would read so much about business, but I would never take time to read about relationships and raising children. And so I started eating up relationship books, and I realized that you can never change anybody else. You can only change yourself, and then be the best yourself that you can be and help guide that. And that's where we went from.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you said, because I think I even still struggle with this, y'all, ladies. I don't know, but I love that you said that you changed the language instead of saying like I feel, because I'm big on like I feel. What's it, but you're right. Sometimes there's like blockage there. Wouldn't you agree, Yasmin?
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
important that you got to pay attention to thoughts become things, and you think things over and over and they become what you do. So it's important that you control the narrative of what you say. So I'm proud of y'all for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. I wanted to just ask about establishing boundaries, because it sounds like at the beginning there was really kind of like no boundary more. So there was a lot that happened. Like you said, a lot of violations. And how did you get to the point where you're like, okay, we're reestablishing boundaries in our relationship?
What are your boundaries first?
Well, I was still in my fuzzy stages of being checked out. But when I realized one of the boundaries that we did set was the no keeping secret. No matter, like, just because of, the infidelity, it happened twice. And so that second time, just being like, okay, well, we have to move in a different way. No secrets. We both have to make sure that we're, practicing Islam. And if there's a lie, then it has to be something that was to like protect, like, because I know on one of the episodes I heard you all talking.
That was a big issue, child. That was a big issue, but go ahead.
But just the like keeping the secrets and like the protecting. So we went through a phase where he wouldn't tell me how I was acting, like, things that he would see that I would do, and he did it to protect my feelings. But these were big things in our relationship that needed to be addressed.
And I think that one probably shouldn't be glossed over. Really.
Yeah.
To be more specific, so the second infidelity was because, like, I knew she still had emotional attachments and things going on with our youngest son's father. And so I was like, all right, I've done so many things to so many people, I have to do my best to, be understanding in this situation. And so even though I knew that there was something going on and certain things, I would stay quiet about certain stuff, because I was like, let me just focus on building more and see if we can do and work past it. And so that was where I didn't want her to go back into a huge state of depression and make what we were working on fall apart. So I would just not say certain things about certain stuff, even though I knew something wasn't right about different things.
Was it though a fear of loss, though? Fear of losing her, fear of abandonment? Was that sort of?
No, because for me, like, it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's the man who can stand to be alone is either a beast or a god. And I've had to do so much solitary confinement and things like that. I had to learn to be okay to be alone. So it was nothing to do with that. It was like, I understand how terrible I was as a person prior to us being together. Like, I guess to put that in more context, I was the boogeyman back home. Like, I was the guy that you would be afraid of. And, if somebody was like, hey, this dude over here was snitching, this and that, oh, we're going to go handle that right now. And so I've done so many wrongs that I was like, I have no room to not try my hardest to try to build and create and do the right thing. And so it was more of I need to develop a backbone, and this is my test to become the man that I really want to be.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful. Yasmin, I'm gonna bring you back in to sort of ask a question.
Wow, this is a lot. And you all have experienced so many things. I want to know, what are some tools that you established along the way to stay committed? Because you've been through so much and so many things that have caused you to possibly want to throw in the towel and just say, you know what, this is too much. What are some practical tools that you can share with our guests that you've established in your relationship to stay committed to one another?
I would say a very, very practical one is make sure that you are actively seeking therapy together and that mental health is not taboo.
Say it again, brother, so that all the men can hear
you. Make therapy together and do not make, especially as a culture too, we have, like, this is one of the best, like, I'm very frank, so I'm going to just put it blunt. White folks have put mental health and made it seem like it's only for them. And then in our culture, we make it seem like if you want to see a psychiatrist, there's something wrong with you already, and so you should just go ahead and go to the loony bin. But the thing is that we are continuing. I mean, like, look at what they put on the news. You don't see white bodies dying every day. You see black bodies dying every day.
Absolutely.
And so mental health is one of the biggest factors that hold our community back. And so dealing with relationships with each other and all the things that we go through, like, there has to be that kind of communication. And it has to, if you need somebody to help that's outside of you that can look into that, those are things that are important. You know, like even with my sister lives with us as well. And whatever we go through, she knows it too. And so she can call us both out like, hey, I see this, I see that, you know.
Wow, powerful.
And my sister was going to school for psychology too, so.
MashaAllah.
I have another question, but I want to hear from sister before I ask it. I do want to ask one more thing though, but can you answer that same question, sis? What are some tools you feel like you all put in place?
So for me, because I had joined the teachings in Islam the beginning of last year. It's actually been a year now. So, thank you. Once I started and actually really been able to really, because at the beginning I wasn't really fully practicing like I am now. And it wasn't until it wasn't until Ramadan that, you know, going through the fasting and really being able to open my mind up more to a lot of things, that I was able to see a lot of things that I needed to work on within myself. So just actively seeking out things that you need to work on within yourself, and also holding yourself accountable. Because if you're not holding yourself accountable for those things, then it'll slip through the cracks and you'll fall right back into those things, the healing that you did get through.
So my other question actually is about accountability. I want to know, how do you all avoid not blaming each other for things? Because there's some things you could blame each other for, and it could be a source of heated discussions. I'm trying to understand, how do you all avoid that?
Well, for me,
you can avoid it.
For me, I guess just because we've, you know, just having an understanding with each other, but also now that I'm not thinking with my feelings, I'm able to actually logically think, okay, what am I doing in this situation that, you know, making it this way, and what is he doing? But what I'm doing, I would approach that first instead of what he's doing wrong, because usually, like a huge majority of the time, like literally, whenever I do point something out that I'm doing, he points something out that he's doing wrong, and we just bring it together and have that understanding, and then we go from there and repair and fix what needs to be fixed.
Wow, that self-reflection. That's really, really powerful. I'm gonna be honest. I'm bringing this in. I'm bringing to go to you, Ziada, but Sister Khalida, she just wanted to keep it a whole buck with all of us. She said, to be honest, you guys are better than her. I couldn't have overcome all the hurdles. I would have bailed. No disrespect, but I. She said, no disrespect, but I wouldn't be able to trust the relationship anymore. Any words of insight for Sister Khalida?
So with that, it's understandable because you shouldn't ignore red flags, because that's not what we did. And you shouldn't be engaged with someone who's not actively working to be better. There's a difference though. And so the difference is that one of the things that I've always been really good at is seeing things inside of people they can't see inside themselves.
Yeah.
And so I saw the queen that she could become if there was the opportunity for the guidance to flourish through that. And then so I can also understand it differently because I know what it's like to be overlooked for so many things. Like they had put a poster in all Denver public schools of me reading to my second grade class. I was in an all white school and I was the only kid that could read, and I could read full chapter books. And I've always had an extremely high reading level as well as comprehension level. And they wanted to accelerate me in classes. But also the thing that came along with that comprehension was I could comprehend BS when I saw it too. And so I knew that I didn't want nobody to pass up over me when I had potential in me, because now I'm in a position to where, you know, I trade stocks, bonds, I do options. I'm involved in, you know, having the ability to teach people how to get away from the central bank and get away from credit and understanding, you know, that those are literal slave ships too. And that if I pass over people who have opportunity and I don't have patience the way I was passed up, then, you know, I'm not correcting the problem that I see in the first place. And even though we've been together this long, I'm older than she is. I've been in other relationships, and I didn't choose to stay with those women. And it was because I knew that they didn't have the traits that I saw in her. And so I didn't stay in things that didn't have fruit or have a potential to yield something.
I heard so much in that. And Ziada, I want to come to you really quickly, but I heard so much wisdom in that. And brother, I appreciate that, because it really does help culminate a point that I was trying to make. I'm not sure if I reached it in some of these podcast series, but it's just the idea, like you said, of you know, it's not to say to throw away the red flags or the you know, some of these alarming factors. I mean, from the outside, you may have looked like a whole red flag, just to keep it a whole, right? You may have looked like a whole, you know, raging red flag, but sometimes, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's so merciful. And sometimes He puts our own divine healing and our own growth in another person, a mirror partner, someone struggling like us, someone on the same path. Ziada, I just want to get your reflection really quick, just based on what our dear brother and sister just shared.
You know, I think he said it so well. I think, you know, that, like he said, like, you know, you don't ignore red flags, like blatant red flags, but you begin to see the person for who they are also, and understand that, like he said, he was overlooked, and you don't want someone to overlook you as a whole human being because of some of the mistakes you may have made in your past, you know. And now that you are rightfully guided, you want the people to see how much you changed and how much you worked on yourself and transformed And I think, like he spoke about, you, if you've been in other relationships, you can see the traits in those other people that you've been with and realize, okay, that is not what's going to keep the relationship to last long or to be able to build with that person. And when you find that in someone, then you work through it. That is not always going to be easy. You're not always, no relationship is picture perfect. And I think
Yeah.
we have to get that idea out of our mind. There's no storybook romance. It's just not, and you're going to go through hardships. You're going to go through different changes. That person is going to make you see yourself and some insecurities, some things you don't like about yourself. They may tell you, you've changed, and so you have to be open and willing to want to grow and be better as a human being for yourself, but as for your partner as well. So it was a great one.
I love it. And I wanted to just bring up a point. Sister, Jamila said that's very true, but from a sister's standpoint, that is very risky. Are we, okay, I'm going to go to you, Fatima, for a quick second. When we say about the risks, we may look and evaluate, a potential partner and say, well, he's too risky. I ain't even going to go down that road. How do you sort of navigate and just lean into trust? First, I'm sure trusting the creator, eventually trusting yourself, trusting your journey. How do you make sense of the risk outweighing trust?
And I want to say to help her too.
Sure.
It seems so like you get to see the front end of that story, right? But this is the thing, because of my level of comprehension and things like that, I knew how to be very, very presentable. And so I didn't look like a red flag by any means.
Okay.
And so that's why it was a lot more difficult for her. And that's why I say I kind of think there might be like a misunderstanding. I would wear suits, and things like that. And I was very, very
clean.
Very clean. Yeah, like if I was, people had no idea unless you were doing what I was doing. So that's,
thank you.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And not really, being that we didn't, being that we didn't really have enough time for, in our courting process before, getting pregnant, it was, not really enough time for me to really choose or not. Because once I became pregnant is when he revealed to me what he was doing in the streets and all that stuff. So I didn't really, have that time to decide, okay, I don't want to date you. I do want to date you because of what you have going on. So I was already pregnant. So it's like, am I going to raise this kid alone? Or am I going to accept that and, the risk and all of that with it? And I was a teenager. I was 17. So still living with my mom and still in high school is just, I didn't really have any choices. So.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the comment.
That was true. I was very, very, very good at it. So it wasn't fair to her at all. Because I knew how to see inside of people, I knew how to make it seem like you couldn't see inside of me.
Thank you so much for your honesty, brother. I really appreciate it. It's very refreshing. I can tell you that much. Subhanallah. Okay, so I wanted to just ask you guys this. Okay, mashallah, you had this really trying start, and you had to get through some of these phases, and then you had to relearn, like you said, establish friendship. Even through this process, after reestablishing the friendship, reestablishing the boundaries, did you also go through other stagnant stages? Did you also face other hurdles that you had to navigate, or since you've been through so much, is sort of like a breeze now?
Pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much been a breeze. I mean, we, a lot of the stuff that comes up now is more of like life stuff. Mm-hmm. Like right now, what we're going through, trying to, run our business. Yeah, running our businesses, trying to move to Dallas, trying to sell our home, trying to. Right now, we're also going through a custody battle with my younger son. So, you know, just trying to navigate all those things and still coming together and having that understanding of what things that, you know, each side is, you know, doing wrong and what we can do better and how we can better work together and plan and forward thinking everything.
And that's why that was kind of a hard question to ask, because with us now, like this is my best friend, and like so with us, it's personally like a breeze. But like I'm having one of my struggles that I'm going through right now is that I'm learning new ways to trade with a different account, because I blew my first account, and we have 3 mentors over us, and they to back up what my mentor said is even though I am doing my best to do the right things and I'm living 100% legal, I'm so used to being risky that I'm even handling my business risky. Oh. And so I would have, you know, majority of our funds tied up in the stock market, and I would make a lot of money, and then I would lose a lot of money, and then I would make a lot of money. And so he was like, no, take that money out right now. You can have a small account to trade with. And I've never traded with a small account until recently, so I was really cash heavy. And I didn't know that the strategy I knew was cash heavy. So now I'm having to unlearn and relearn a new strategy. And there's some days where like I'm almost ready to be in tears, because I'll have days to where I can turn $100 into $1,000, and then I might not be able to find a trade that I can trust to get into for weeks or at a time and stuff. So it's just personal things now that trying to deal with, and not trying to put that negative energy onto her or onto my family.
Wow, beautiful. I mean, brother, can I just, and Yasmin, can we just say for a second, brother, and sister, mashallah, like your story is so inspiring. And now you're at a point right now where, mashallah, you're independent, you're business owners, you're thriving. I mean, after imprisonment, after life in the streets, after so many trials, subhanAllah, Allah is so merciful, right, Ziada and Yasmin? Allah is so incredibly merciful. I mean, Yasmin, what are your thoughts?
I'm just thinking, first I want to acknowledge and affirm you all, you know, that you all have been through so much, and to be here today is a blessing, because it could have went a different way, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that you all, if you're not making dua and thanking Allah that you came to the other side of it, you know what I mean? Because it could have went a different way. So I'm grateful to have met you all, you know what I mean? And to be able to see a brother that's loving on his wife in front of this whole crowd and calling her his best friend, and she's blushing and all of that. I hope y'all keep all of that up, because it matters. Those small things matter, you know what I mean? So I'm celebrating y'all from over here.
SubhanAllah. And Ziada, what are some of your reflections about this?
I just want to echo what Yasmin said, for sure, that, you know, I definitely celebrate you all, because, you know, despite the challenges that you all face, you all still show love to one another. And I don't really see where there's like animosity toward one another. You all have really healed through this process. And sometimes that's really difficult, you know, especially dealing with infidelity and things of that nature. And because you are to learn how to trust the person again and believe genuinely that they love you and that they want to be with you, can be a challenge for others. And definitely that struggle of leaving the street and making, you know, money and how you were deemed before is hard sometimes. That transition is really, really, really hard, because it's not easy having to relearn how, like you said, learning how to live 100% honest and clean and not in the street anymore. I commend you. I mean, because again, like I told you, my brother definitely struggled with that, for sure. For years, that has truly been his jihad. That has really been his jihad. So I definitely commend you all. You know, I really do. And I pray that Allah continues to bless you all. And may he continue to protect your family.
I also want to commend the brother for turning his skills into something productive. Because I have a brother that's been in and out of prison, and some of the things that he learned that weren't so good, he learned how to use them for good. You know what I mean? So I want to commend you for doing that, because sometimes people are not able to switch things around, and it looks like you've been able to do that. You just got to focus on those stocks and keeping that money right.
Keeping that money right. Smaller accounts right now, right? Less risk.
I just wanted to second what Yasmin said, because I've always said that most guys in the street are some of the most intelligent people you ever want to meet.
Absolutely.
And if they legitimize a lot of the things that they're doing, the amount of money that they could really make, would be amazing, because most of them are very brilliant human beings.
And they go getters. They like, it ain't no stopping them, right? Like, it's just mashallah. It's mashallah. I really just appreciate this. I wanted to just get some power. I mean, you guys dropped so many gems, and to be honest with you, I just really think, and probably Yasmin and Ziada know this, because personally, this podcast was definitely maybe for me, but it's so helpful for me personally. SubhanAllah, in so many different ways. So I deeply appreciate. I'll share that with you guys off screen. But I wanted to just get some last bits of advice. I'm going to first start with you, if that's okay, Fatima. I wanted to just see if you could share some advice with us as women, as wives, even us going into sort of navigating relationships and trying to figure out how to trust, how to lean into trust in ourselves and just keep kind of moving forward, getting past the hurdles, being patient. Could you just give us some last bits of advice for those of us out here that are still struggling?
Yeah, for me, as I was going through my process of healing, one of the things that really worked was, I don't know if you've heard of the book, but it's called Naturally Beautiful by Sister Ava Muhammad. I was reading that through my healing process, and was an actual book club with sisters that are from the Nation of Islam. And it just talks about, being the second self of God and stuff like that, and just coming into your femininity. Coming into your femininity can help you to learn yourself. Can help you to learn yourself, and that's one of the things that really helped me, was learning the true me. Because for a long time, I was pretty much a replica of him. The things that he liked, things that he loved to do, and his interests. But I never really took the time to know myself. So focusing on self is one of the things, things that I, could really say.
That was helpful for you. Powerful. And brother, could you please share some last bit of insight for our brothers? You were able to just really, like you said, see the queen in your woman, despite the mistakes, despite the challenges. And sometimes a lot of our brothers have a hard time with this. What are some last bits of advice you can give or offer?
I can do that. Also, I'd like to ask y'all 2 questions apiece, if you don't mind also.
Okay.
So, understanding that as men, I believe that it's important that we really get back to genuinely supporting and understanding what it is to be a man. Don't follow any women on IG that are sexualizing themselves. Don't do it. It really ain't cool. Like, and I know that comes off as square for a lot of dudes. They're like, oh, it's just Cardi B or whatever. No, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, you're really supporting something that is victimizing them and yourself at the same time. If you don't know self-defense, you need to learn self-defense. You poke your chest out a little bit different when you know that you can be one of the most dangerous men in the room. And for me personally, I'm a ranked fighter in the state of Texas. And so understanding, like, if it comes worse to worse, I can protect my family on the physical. And then understand that economics is war. And that if you can't secure a legacy, and you understand that wealth is measured in time, not dollars, and that if you only have 10 months worth of savings that you can live off and not have to go to work, that's only 10 months worth of wealth. And that you need to find vehicles for business and investing, so that way you can have something that works for you, so that way you're not a slave to the cotton dollar anymore.
Powerful.
Powerful.
So for the question, oh, my bad, go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother. We waiting.
So, first question for all of y'all is, what is the most important book you have read and why?
Oh my God. Child. If of course the Quran. I'm going to start if that's okay. Of course the Quran. I know it's cliche, but it is, it is the book of healing for myself. But Malcolm X, I was introduced really early. Autobiography of Malcolm X. I was introduced when I was really, 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 really young. Like even before I was able to actually read all the words, it was read to me by my father. And it was the way I sort of connected to my father and really understood, I guess, my position and my role as a woman. So that was to me the beginning of the birth of love of reading and love of history and love of my people was that book. So that's mine. Ciara?
So I guess I have two. The first was for me was The Alchemist was a really good book for me. And The Alchemist helps me to always like restore my faith in like humanity and just to understand that we all have our own personal destiny and that you may see some roadblocks, but it's really always that it's inside of you to be able to reach those goals. So it was very transformative for me. And the other book that was really good was The Color of Money. Black folks and the racial wealth gap was really, really good. It really spoke about the banking system, and it dated all the way back from slavery to President Obama. And it spoke about, you read that book?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Thank you.
enlightening. I mean, it definitely made me very angry while I was reading it, because it's like, it's just so many traps set out there for us. It's aggravating, but it's informative and it's a must read. It actually is a must read. It helps you how to manage your money more properly and to understand how investments outside of banks is really what we should be doing. So it was a great book.
Okay, Yasmin.
All right, so I got four actually.
Oh, so y'all trying to outdo me. Whatever, go on.
Kind of hard to choose, but my first one of the first on the list is the Four Agreements. The Four Agreements is a really powerful book. And then another book is called We Will Shoot Back by Dr. Akinyele Umoja. Really powerful. Look it up. It's a very good book. And We Will Shoot Back, Dr. Akinyele Umoja. And I love The Coldest Winter Ever, Sister Soldier.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
And I really, really loved Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was a really
that's a good one.
Yeah. So those are my four.
Now I feel like, brother, you need to share yours.
Yeah,
I feel like
right.
you need to just go ahead and do that.
Okay. I'll do two. One's a fantasy and one's a finance book. So for the fantasy book, it is called the Dune series.
Doom?
And Dune, D-U-N-E.
Oh.
And it's a very, very old, it's sci-fi, very old. It's like the grandfather of all sci-fi. But it gives you a look into a possibility of the future that the European might be seeking. And some of the things that they're doing, like he studied Islam. It's a European who wrote it, and he studied Islam very intimately, and he wove Islam into this, and you could tell he had a reverence for it and a fear for it as well. And so that series, I feel, is very enlightening into how they think. And then Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that one is because it helps give you an understanding of which directions money is made out of, why, what the languages are, and which quadrant we're in now, and how to get to a quadrant that will better secure your legacy. And then actually, I'll do a self-plug too. A book that we sell too is The Private Banking Blueprint, which teaches you to become your own bank. So I'll do that one too.
Private banking. MashaAllah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And guys, this segues into our next our next series, which we're going to do the accountability and stability series, in which we're going to get a lot into finances and how to stabilize and how to keep ourselves accountable in our next podcast series. So this was just so important. I deeply appreciate this discussion. I cannot tell you how much it has really helped, because number one, anytime you share and that you're that transparent and authentic, it's always going to land in the hearts of others. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you, Brother Elijah. Thank you, Sister Fatima. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you deeply.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ziada, for rocking with us through Love and Restoration series. And thank you for sharing and contributing.
Always. Thank you so much for always having this. This was really good. This is a great podcast. I'm grateful that you asked me to be a co-host. It was better than I expected it. It was really good. Honestly, really good.
Really good. And thank you so much as well, Yasmin, for rocking with me and always being there with us. And thank you for your dope perspective on this one.
Alhamdulillah, I've been making dua to be a part of this type of thing. And so I'm grateful to always be called on. It was interesting that, I had some forgiveness I needed to do right before this episode. So I heard a lot of ways to forgive this couple was shared. So I'm grateful.
Grateful. And I just want to just reiterate again, you don't know how much you guys have personally helped me. So I just, again, honor and thank you so much. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for our audience members. I know you guys benefited so much. Thank you for rocking with us for Love and Restoration. I absolutely love you guys. We had so much fun through this podcast series. Again, we're going to take a week or two, a couple weeks, a little bit of a break. Inshallah, I'll be announcing when we're going to launch our next podcast series, but stay tuned. But we will be talking all about stability. We will be talking all about accountability in our next series. And that's just the next phase. After we heal, after we restore, we now have to sustain. So inshallah, jazakallah khairan. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.